And Mike Florio from Pro Football Talk joins us. And I got to tell you, Mike, I'm not sure where to start, but I might as well start with Phillip Rivers getting signed, being out of football for 5 years, and hasn't taken a hit. And I'm trying to get this. I have this thought of Seattle blitzing him on the first third down, and this guy has not been hit. He's been coaching his kid in high school football, and what that would be like.
Oh, it's going to be an eye-opener. Chris Sims talked about that this week. He went a stretch between playing after he lost his spleen in 2006, and when you come back, you brace for that first hit. You don't know how it's going to feel, and now Phillip Rivers is going to be hit by guys literally half his age. So Vegas doesn't believe. Vegas has the Seahawks as 13.5-point favorites in the game on Sunday. I assume Rivers is going to play. I think this whole thing was planned. The moment that Anthony Richardson was lost with the fractured orbital bone from the freak accident with the exercise band that snapped in the locker room before the Week 6 game against the Cardinals, which is still amazing to say, they had 3 weeks and 2 days until the trade deadline. They didn't bring in a veteran backup to Daniel Jones. I think at that point, or not long after that, they devised the plan that if we lose Jones, we're going to activate the bat signal for Phillip Rivers, and he was on board with it because, boom, the injury happened Sunday, boom, he's there on Monday. You don't just walk out of a house with all those kids on, or I don't know, I mean, maybe he's had enough. I mean, there's a critical mass where you're just waiting for that phone to ring and you're going to jump at the opportunity. But I think they knew that this was going to happen, and he was on board with it, and here we are, and I fully expect him to play. I don't think he showed up to not play.
Well, the other part of this is, because this has popped up, why him and not other guys? Why didn't you go out there? And so I've been kind of like, well, what else would be out there that would be better, even though Phillip Rivers hasn't played in 5 years? It could be a lot of guys. Who else, if they were just recently after this last injury to Daniel Jones, who else would have been out there that could be better than Phillip Rivers?
Well, and let me first address the reality that maybe a guy could have asked to be released, like a Russell Wilson or even a Derek Carr from the Saints reserve retired list. The problem is when you are released at this stage of the season, no matter how many years you've played, you have to go through waivers. Not that anybody would have claimed Russell Wilson or Derek Carr, but that would have slowed the process down. They wanted to move. And like Taylor Heineke is out there. They didn't bring him in for a workout. They were interested in signing Sam Ehlinger off the Broncos practice squad. He's one of the many starters post Andrew Luck's sudden retirement in 2019 for the Colts. He didn't want to do it. So it was Phillip Rivers, and they brought in a guy named Seth Hennigan to work out.
Wow.
He's 22. Rivers is 44. Hennigan had a cup of coffee with the Jaguars in the offseason and training camp, and then he had a tryout with the Falcons last week. He hasn't been on an active roster yet. I don't know why the wheel landed on Seth Hennigan, but it was Hennigan and Rivers who had tryouts on Tuesday, and Rivers got the job. But I think they knew all along that Rivers was the guy they were going to bring in. And it really, look, he hasn't played in nearly 5 years. He doesn't quite look like he ate Phillip Rivers, but he looks larger than he did.
He didn't want to talk about his weight. Yeah, let's not worry about that.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, you just got to – no, I mean, my point is you just got to wonder what kind of playing shape the guy's in.
Right.
When he shows up and your first thought is, who's that?
Yeah. Hey, and I'll just end it with this. I don't think Indy wins another game. They got Seattle, San Francisco, Jacksonville, and the Texans. Doesn't sound like there's a win in there. That could be it.
And this is one, hey, Joe, this is one of those developments where if you look at the last 4 games of the schedule when the schedule comes out, you're not thinking this is murderer's row. It is now. When you look at what the Seahawks have done, what the 49ers have done despite all the injuries, where the Jaguars are, where the Texans are, and they could get a time machine and get Peyton Manning in his prime, and it may not matter with these 4 games that they have.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. Hey, so I got to ask you Monday Night Football. The Dolphins, after that 1-6 start, now have a chance to go to 7-7. Steelers do not look like world beaters. They have a nice win last week, got a nice call at the end of the game. How do you look at this game, considering everything's going on? Most of it good, except Tua's not throwing the ball as much or not as big as part of this offense.
Well, you said the Steelers got a nice call. They got 3 controversial calls that went their way against the Ravens. One of them resulted in 4 extra points on the next play because they were able to take a field goal off the board for a horrendous unnecessary roughness call that the league actually admitted was wrong. You know it's bad when the league admits it's bad because they never, ever, ever admit I can't say never, ever because they did. They rarely admit that they made a mistake in officiating. The 2 calls in the fourth quarter, the Aaron Rodgers, air quotes, catch, and the Isaiah Likely, air quotes, non-catch, both of those were bad. And I know it's become controversial, and I think it's because a lot of people just don't understand the rule, and that's because it's the NFL's fault because the rule's been all over the place. I'll just say this, and I know I'm not answering your question, but people need to understand this. Look at the play last night when Bijan Robinson caught the ball and fumbled it. If he had it long enough for it to be a catch, and I'll stipulate that he did, Isaiah Likely had it long enough for it to be a touchdown. Yeah. And the Ravens should have been up with 2:47 to play. And that all of a sudden and I say that because the atmosphere Monday night for the Dolphins would have been dramatically different. And it would have been far more negative for the Steelers if the Steelers had lost that game. So now the Steelers have life and the Dolphins are going into a night where it's cold. And what can they do? I don't know, because I'm not convinced the Steelers have turned the corner. They got lucky. They got very lucky. They easily could have lost that game. They still gave up over 200 rushing yards to the Ravens in that game. So, even though they had to know that the Ravens were going to try to run the ball down their throat because they gave up the most rushing yards at home against the Bills on Sunday than they had in 50 years at home, they still weren't able to stop the run. So dial it up, run the ball, and keep it close. And maybe they can steal one, and maybe you can get the crowd to turn on the Steelers like they did during that Bills game. So there's an opportunity there to be had for the Dolphins, and it really is amazing to see them at 6-7. And it should be an entertaining game on Monday night. Every game this weekend has at least one team that is still playing for something. There's only one game that doesn't, the Commanders and the Giants. Every other game has a contender or two. And if it's just one, they're going against a team that's out of it. But look at what happened last night. You never know what these teams that are done are going to do in these games. And I think a lot of them, if they have nothing else to play for, let's relish the opportunity to go screw things up for someone else. So there's a lot of good games this weekend.
Yeah, no, I got to tell you, what we thought last weekend was great. This one looks every bit as good, if not better, with all these games coming up here. Hey, this Chiron Moore thing, fired and arrested. Boy, college football has had quite an interesting few weeks. Mike, help me out on the arrested part. Do we know anything except what everything's being tweeted out with all the conspiracy theories? What do we know?
Well, there's a bunch of rumors, and I just think with the sensitivity of the situation, we've stayed away from that. We're going to rely upon official statements. We're going to rely upon reports that have been published by, established, credible companies with something to lose if they're wrong. A lot of the people who will just throw stuff out there have nothing to lose if they're wrong. And hey, there was a point where ProFootballTalk.com was in that mindset where, we got nothing to lose. The standards may be a little lower than it otherwise would be. For something like this, the sensitivity of the story, I think that it's important to just wait to see how things ultimately come out and how things play out. And we'll find out. I just think it's wild that, and the criminal procedure is different in every state. And without knowing the details of what allegedly happened that caused Chiron Moore to be detained, he's been detained for a couple of days now, and they haven't decided whether or not to charge him. There's got to be a deadline. There's got to be a point where you either have to charge the guy or let him go. And I assume something's going to happen today, but my guess is whatever the standard is in Michigan, they got enough evidence to justify keeping him behind bars. Because here's the wild thing. Apart from seeing some, clunky media efforts to suggest, there's going to be another side to this story. Hey, Chiron Moore's lawyer can put his side of the story out whenever he wants. He can speak whenever he wants. And Michigan has been on the record. They said why they fired him. They said they fired him for having an inappropriate relationship.
Yeah.
And if there's anything that Chiron Moore, his agents, or his lawyers want to put into the universe to tell his side of the story, they could and they should do it on the record. And I've seen some stuff out there that kind of comes from his perspective. No. For something like this, if you got something to say, don't leak it to a reporter. Say it so people will know what your position is. and then we can frame the issues and we can make decisions about where things go from here.
Speaking of college, I don't know if you caught this, a Notre Dame playoff committee saying if they get one of the top 12 ranking, I don't know if it's true, number one, but they'd automatically get in. But it was enough for some other people in other conferences to say this is ridiculous with Notre Dame. Enough, man. Either join the party with somebody full time, but we got to stop kissing Notre Dame's ass so much.
I saw this come out on Sunday, and it was something I wanted to write about. But so much of these developments are happening while the NFL season is reaching its final stretch run. When Pete Zavakwa, the Notre Dame AD, said on Sunday that they have a memorandum of understanding that as of next year, if they finish 12th in the final rankings, they're guaranteed a spot in the playoff. And if that rule applied this year, they would have gotten in. I was like, whoa. Why would like the SEC and the Big Ten agree to that? And the blowback has been, hey, we don't want to play you now. And I don't know that it's going to come to that, but Joe, this is just more of the college football chaos that college football has brought upon itself. And, there's this weird disconnect that they still try to maintain. The fiction that college football is about something other than money. It's, loyalty to the school and raccoon coats and, no. It is a multi-billion-dollar business now. And everything that is being said, all the posturing, it's all about business. It's all about money. It's all about elevating these programs and making them as profitable as they can be. And at some point, it's going to be impossible to say that this is anything other than a different type of professional football. And that's really what it is. They're talking about equity stakes in programs being sold to private business. Utah has some deal. The Big Ten's talking about it. We need to stop calling it professional or college football. It's professional football played by people who haven't played enough at that level to qualify for the NFL. That's all it is.
Right.
It's NFL junior at this point, and we should start thinking of it that way because that makes a lot of these arguments more understandable because it's all driven by business decisions, dollars and cents, nothing else.
Hey, Mike, we're just talking off the air every time you're coming on, and we always wonder about your business, which has just exploded at Pro Football Talk, and everything you do, you get addicted to going to it 4, 5, 6,000 times a day. But has it been bad for business that Kansas City has struggled? Does it hurt business at all when one of the top teams all of a sudden struggles?
Not really. No, we've been up every month this year. I mean, there's still interesting stories, and that's the thing. It's all about interesting. And my guiding principle has always been, if it's interesting to me, I think it'll be interesting to other people. Now, sometimes there are things that interest me that 2% of the audience cares about, and I understand that, but I'm interested in it. So, hey, when you're on the platform, you can do whatever you want. You can afford to make some bad business decisions, right? But most of the time, what's interesting to me is interesting to others. And I think what we try to bring to the news cycle, and one of the reasons we've been able to keep our traffic going up at a time when the options for people's time and attention are getting more and more numerous, I always try to add something to help people better understand what's going on. That's the hardest part about following news in any industry, whatever it may be. If you're trying to follow a political story, a business story, an entertainment story, a sports story, what does it really mean? How does this all fit together? And where is it going from here? What am I learning from this? And we always try to bring that to the table. And so we take the interesting story and we try to push it forward. And one of the benefits of doing it for this long, there are patterns that repeat themselves. And the people who are in the middle of the facts, they don't even understand that we've been here before in one form or another, and there are things that are going to keep playing out over and over and over again, and that's what we try to do. So the Chiefs down doesn't matter because you know what? It's a zero-sum game. If one team's down, another team's up. Yeah. So Chiefs fans become a little less engaged. Well, the fans of some other team that has stepped into the void, they're more engaged, and they're more interested because it's been so long. So the Broncos are up, the Chargers are up, their fans are more into it, and that balances out the fact that maybe Chiefs fans are getting ready for baseball season or doing anything other than following the team as zealously as they have in the past.
If Broncos and Patriots play, who would you like? Which team thinks better right now? Both 11-2.
Where are they playing it?
A good point. I don't know yet. I'll let you know. Hey, I don't.
Well, and here's why. Hey, Joe, here's why. Look at what Tom Brady's house of horrors when he was playing for the Patriots was Mile High Stadium.
Yes.
Right? 2015, Patriots lost the NFC Championship game there. 2005, he threw the 100-yard pick six to Champ Bailey in a divisional round game. That's what ended the Patriots' run of 2 straight Super Bowl appearances. If the Patriots have to go to Denver, it's a far different outcome.
Yeah, I agree. That's a good call.
Yeah.
I totally agree. By the way, Bills at New England, I kind of like the Bills in this game. I think it's going to get real interesting. What do you think about that?
Well, Joe, I did too until I saw that the Bills are favored by 1.5. And I know Mike Vrabel is going to take that, and he's going to use that as fodder to poke and prod, because they all do. It's funny. They try to downplay it. Baloney. They know. We were talking about today on PFT Live. He said he has people who tell him that kind of stuff. Well, why does he even want to know that kind of stuff? Because they are looking for anything they can use to help keep their guys focused one game at a time. And Vrabel's a master of it. Think about this. The last time we saw the Patriots, it was the Monday night that ended Thanksgiving weekend. And this is a team that had won 9 in a row. They were going against an overmatched Giants team. They're heading into their bye week. It's Thanksgiving week, which has an inherent distraction on the Thursday, which is an important work day of the week. It's the first real work day of the week if you play on Monday night. And Mike Vrabel kept those guys fully focused, and they went out there and they played with a level of physicality that told me, and I assume others agreed with this, Vrabel got them ready, and they are not going to slip up. They are mashing the gas pedal as they get closer and closer to a division title and possibly the number 1 seed. And you throw on top of that, they're home underdogs against a team they already went into their building and beat.
Yep.
To me, that flipped it. When I saw that, because we do a picks podcast every Thursday, my pick was going to be Bills 27-24. I saw that the Bills were favorites. Like, nope, let's make it 27-24 the other way around.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, as you said and we started with, we got some great games coming up. Mike, I really appreciate it, man. Thank you for coming on as always.